The first female artist invited to exhibit at the Chateau of Versailles. She's flown the flag for Portugal at the Venice Biennale, and her colourful, controversial creations have been shown around the world. Artist Joana Vasconcelos has brought her subversive vision, craftsmanship and extravagant installations to Paris once again in a show entitled Branco Luz, or White Light. She joins us in the studio today. Hello, Joana.
Hello.
So your work is currently on display at the department store, the Bon Marché here in Paris.
Yes.
It's a major, massive installation called Simone. She sounds like a very female protagonist, let's say. Who is she?
Well, Simone, it's the name that I gave to this piece in homage to all the French Simones. And the idea is always to pay a tribute to important women that in their own time, they changed their own culture and add something to the humanity. And so in a way, the Simones of France were very important. And so I wanted to pay an homage to this city, to their work, to who they were as women in their own time.
So I imagine Simone de Beauvoir?
Yes.
Anyone else?
Well, you know, there's a lot of Simones. I don't want to discuss which one I chose for. The idea was that it's a French name, and I did Victoria in homage to Queen Victoria, and I did recently for the Guggenheim, I did Egeria, which was the first tourist of the world, and she came from the area of the Guggenheim in the Pays Basque. So in a way, the idea was to pay, it's always to pay through these pieces an homage to important women all over the world. And where I do the piece, I choose a female personality.
Iconic women indeed. Well, we went along to the Bon Marché to hear what some of the visitors thought of that art installation.
It's a bit of an oxymoron. There's lightness, yet denseness filling the space. It's on one hand decorative, but it also works in a space like the Bon Marché.
It's gigantic. The crochet and fringe detail is incredible. To have these little details on such a large work of art is so unexpected. It's a real performance.
So, Joana, some artists believe that people's reactions, their feelings about the work, are actually part of the installation itself. Do you agree? And what are the most surprising reactions you've had to your work?
Well, it's really important what people think about the work, and many times I'm very surprised about it, and because I never thought of such a way or such a thought. And I have this piece which is a heart made with forks and knives and spoons, which talks about fado, the Portuguese traditional songs, and it's with fado. And I'm in Spain and showing this piece, and there's a guide tour with the guide, and she goes through with a group of people, and suddenly she starts crying, and I said, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "Well, you know, my husband does a lot of surgery operations, and I can only think about all the heart operations that he does." And I was like, oh my God, I never thought of, you know, because there's knives. And so she always imagined cutting the body. And I was talking about fado and about, you know, love. And she was thinking about surgery. So there was nothing, it was impossible for me to think about that dimension. So people always add something. And I think my work is an open window, which is open to different interpretations and different thoughts. And that's what I like about the artworks. They allow you to think about them and to add something to the work itself.
Indeed, very diverse responses. Now, as well as Branco Luz here in Paris, there's an exhibition of your work on show at the Modern Art Museum of Strasbourg. The title of that show is I Want to Break Free, and it made me think of the song by Queen, and especially the video.
Of course.
Is that about breaking free from domestic servitude?
Of course. I look at the domestic environment in a different angle, and I try to transform the domestic environment with their objects in a different dimension. So it's bringing tradition to contemporarity and to play with the role of women in the house, the traditional role of the housewife, the mother, and to transform it into the contemporary woman where she transforms all her reality to something else. And so I want to break free is connected, of course, to Queen and to that amazing video. And of course, through my work, I try to do that too. So there's a connection with the song and with the video, of course.
Now, looking back to your previous shows here in France, you were invited to show your work at the Chateau de Versailles, the only woman ever to do so, the youngest artist ever to do so in 2012. That's a very prestigious site. Were you inspired by the royal dimension of things there?
No, I think I always had Versailles in the back of my mind as the perfect location for my work. So when I was invited by Jean-Jacques, I was like, oh my God, this is a dream come true. But at the same time, I thought, I'm able to do this, because in a way, Versailles is the perfect scenario for Europeans, is the perfection of European culture. So in a way, when I was invited, I thought that my work would fit amazingly, which it did. But I never understood before that I always had Versailles as the perfect scenario. Only when I was invited, and I started doing this exercise with Jean-François, the curator, to think how my pieces would fit. And we were like, oh my God, they fit perfectly here and there, the choices. Then I made some specific work for Versailles also to fit amazingly in the room of Marie Antoinette. And I did specific pieces for the lakes in front of the chateau. So I worked very, very detailed and very tailor-made for Versailles. And that was an amazing experience.
Yeah, there's something very opulent, especially about, for example, the Golden Valkyrie in Versailles fits very well. But one very important piece of work was missing from the chateau and its grounds, and that was Anoiva, or the bride. Can you explain why that was deemed too controversial to go in the castle?
Well, it was said to me that we couldn't show tampons in Versailles, which I never understood why, but that was the case. So there's a taboo against tampons. You cannot show tampons. I don't know why, but in a way, it's about, exposing femininity and exposing the details of women's health and women's sexuality. There's some issues you cannot talk about. So it's quite interesting how the freedom of speech and how the fact that women have things that they still have to hide from their own identity. So that's what I thought. I thought it was very strange that in France, another woman was, censoring another woman about a women's issue that we should feel free to talk about, and we should feel not annoyed or not needed to hide an aspect of our life, and a good aspect, because tampons are very good for our life. They allow us to be free.
Indeed, and that work did find a home in a different space as well. And I wanted to ask about the technique that much of your work involves. You often work with craftsmanship, the kind of techniques we don't see so much in the art world, embroidery, crochet and lace making. There's sometimes a bit of snobbery about the separation between craft and art. So why was it important for you to embrace these techniques?
Well, because they're handmade, and most of them are made by women. And there's a tradition of passing the knowledge from one generation to another. And I don't want to lose that. And in Portugal, you keep on doing it for generations. And it's an amazing knowledge that people, civilizations, cultures, they pass on through centuries. And why shouldn't we take advantage of it and turn it into something contemporary? And also to think about what they bring us. They were done by our grandmothers. They're our heritage, in a way. They were done by our mothers, our friends, our grandmothers' friends. So in a way, we should look upon all these women and to pay an homage to the time they spend to protect their own family, producing all this cloth, to protect the home, how they would work for the family to embrace the family and protect it with their cloth, with their table, naps, with everything that they've done with their own hands. So I pay a tribute to all these women using it and putting it in another context and using it in another level, which is the artistic level. So it's really important to me to do so, and it has been important to my team of women because they learn, as I did, to look upon all these women, all these techniques, and to enjoy them and appreciate them and give them the right value that they still have today.
And it contributes enormously to the amazing aesthetic of your work. Now, finally, we asked you to flag up what's on your cultural radar at the moment, what you're into, and you pointed us in the direction of an exhibition which is on in Lisbon at the moment at the Modern Art Museum, the Coleção Berardo. It's called Quel Amor. It's all about love. Tell us more.
Yes, Quel is an amazing exhibition. I'm part of it, but it was in Marseille also, and then it went to the Berardo. I couldn't go to Marseille, I'm very sorry, but when I saw it in Lisbon, I was like so surprised by the angle that the curator used to look upon love, because there's a lot of shows about love, but this one is very personal and intimate, and I was very surprised by the choice of the pieces. They're amazing pieces that you can see, and the relationship and how you talk about love in different levels, not only love by two lovers, but the love of the family, a lover, the love of a mother to her son. And so there's a lot of dimensions of love that are treated in this show, and I think it's a very intelligent show and very important show to see.
A perfect way to have a little philosophical look at love on approaching Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Joana Vasconcelos, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Joana's exhibition, Branco Luis, is currently on show at the Bon Marché department store, and we'll leave you with a look at some of the highlights of the Quel Amour show in Lisbon. Remember to check out our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.